Welcome back to another Finance Friday. I want to share with you the beginnings of wealth inequality with Mr. Andrew Carnegie. I'm going to share with you something that I think for most of us, it should change our viewpoints on this. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. Jerry Fetta here, CEO of Philanthro Wealth. So I've been doing these Finance Fridays for a long time now. And what I'm covering right now is the book, The Gospel of Wealth by Andrew Carnegie. That's Andrew Carnegie's, not only his autobiography, but also his book, The Gospel of Wealth, which is his viewpoint on wealth and what wealth should be used for. For those that don't know, if you're just tuning in, who is Andrew Carnegie? Andrew Carnegie is America's first billionaire. He is the father of modern day philanthropy. And, in a nutshell, he is a Scottish immigrant, first generation, came here penniless as a young boy, and he basically decided he wanted to become successful, and he did, right? And he did it through hard work. He did it through, a lot of really good foundations that his parents gave him, that his employers, the community, and all this stuff. But he had the goal of dying penniless. So he came to the United States penniless. He also wanted to die penniless because he wanted to give all of his wealth away. And so Andrew Carnegie is someone that managed to actually do that. Okay, now, in the book, we've been reading a couple of weeks. We're still in his childhood, 12, 13 years old. And something really interesting came up, right? So he's been working in the story. He's been working, basically as a messenger. As I mentioned in the last video on this, that he was starting to develop some connections, right? He was starting to develop connections with, businessmen and people who are successful in society. Now, this is at the age of 12. So 12 years old, these are the kind of connections he's making. And what I thought was really interesting is in this particular chapter, he basically gets a promotion. So he's doing the same jobs as everyone else. And there's a part in this chapter where, the end of the month rolls around and each of the kids that's working there, they're lined up getting paid. And so he puts his hand out to get paid. And so the boss pays the first kid, and second kid gets to Carnegie and skips him. Doesn't say anything, but he skips him. Right? And then he goes on to the third kid, the fourth kid, the fifth kid. And Carnegie is thinking the worst, right? He's like, I'm somehow being fired. Maybe I did a terrible job. All of the mental noise that comes in when we have these negative experiences, and maybe you can relate, right? Now, what's interesting is after this happens, he talks about how the kids leave, the boss pulls them aside and says, I didn't want to do this in front of them, but you're more valuable than all the other children. He actually tells this to Carnegie, you're more valuable than the other children. And this is such an interesting, because we think of it with kids. It's like, kids and everybody is special and unique and equal. And there's kind of this mindset with that. And then there's another story of well, what about amongst workers, right? And so I think in society, we have mixed up all men are created equal, which, to some degree may or may not be true depending on which society you're in and who you're dealing with. But in a workplace, nobody's equal. Not everyone is created equal when it comes to work and value. Hey, what's up? Jerry here. I just wanted to give you another reminder. Grab my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. It's going to be one of the best books you have ever read on finance. I can promise you that. You're going to love it. It's also a free offer. So if you go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, you can get that now. And so at 12, 13 years old, Andrew Carnegie is being told, you're more valuable than the other boys. You do more for us. You work harder. You produce more. You're more special. We want to pay you more because of that. So he actually gives them a $2.50 raise back then, which today wouldn't be much. Back then was a lot of money. And so this was a moment for Carnegie where he came home. He told his parents about it. They were, as parents, they were completely just elated and honored at the fact that he got, essentially promoted. And it showed that their son was working hard. He's being recognized. And here's what I want to say on that. Again, we're still kind of in the childhood phase. As a parent, this is one of the most important things you can help someone develop, right? Hard work and value to others, to other people, right? And again, it's opposite in today's society. A lot of parents, they way overdo it with their kids. It's like they give. And then the kids become, entitled and lazy, and they turn into bums is what they turn into. And so Carnegie is growing up in a way where if you think about the previous chapters, he saw his parents struggle. He was in the struggle with them. He was working through it with them. So that hard work and that struggle, when it came time for him to work, he was that much of a harder worker because he was used to it. He was used to more output. And so this translated in value with his employer. This translated in a pay raise. Okay. Now, the other thing I thought was really cool, in his world, like this was like a fortune. Like he was already like, wow, we're on our way to becoming millionaires, right? With my $2.50 raise. As someone that's pursuing wealth and success in business, you need to validate the wins, right? Like everything we're doing is focused on that end goal, right? So if you're thinking about, I want to be financially independent where my residual income exceeds my savings, my expenses, my taxes, my generosity, if you get a pay raise at work, even if it's a small one, that like Carnegie, $2.50, he's like, we could see we were on the way to being millionaires. That's what he said in the book. I felt that that was one step closer to my family making it. We were becoming millionaires on that one little win. That one little win. And check this out. Look at this. What do we usually do when we make small wins in progress? You can be honest. Generally, we invalidate it. Oh, it's only $2. It's not that much. You know, other people are doing way better. And it's insanity because that's a measure of progress. Like imagine if you were like baking and you took that principle and you applied it to baking. Like you're doing brownies and you put in the 2 eggs that it requires, which is a win. Like it said, put in 2 eggs and you did the successful action of 2 eggs. And then you invalidate the amount of eggs. Oh, you know, well, one of those eggs was smaller and, you know, 2, it's not that many. And there's an egg shortage right now. So, you know, eggs are pretty valuable. I want the brownies to be good. Other people have more. I'm going to just put in some more eggs because the ones I put in didn't matter. You would ruin the brownies. Nobody would eat your brownies. They'd be like, these are disgusting. Why does this taste like chocolate quiche? Right? That's what's happening when we invalidate our little wins and goals on our way to the bigger thing. It's like, oh, it's only $2. Like that just canceled out one of your stepping stones. Oh, I only paid off 1 credit card. That just canceled out one of your stepping stones. Oh, I only own 2 properties. That just canceled out one of your stepping stones. Validate that stuff. Acknowledge it. Like that's a win. Good job. Pat on the back. You don't need to go into like weird kumbaya with yourself in a lavender bubble bath with candles and like self-care mode, right? Don't overdo it. But you can be like, okay, great. That was one step forward, even if it was a little one. Okay, so that was an important thing I picked up on in this chapter. Now, the other thing was Carnegie, he constantly was getting promoted. And one of the reasons he was being promoted is he was grabbing harder work. There was a part in the chapter where one of his bosses was like, keep in mind, Carnegie, he's like 13, right? He's like 12, 13 years old. His bosses are grown men. And so one of his grown men bosses is a little too happy with the idea that Andrew was going to do all of his work. Right? So he's like taking it easy. He's like kicking his feet up on the desk. He's not there very much. And Carnegie's basically doing this guy's entire job without being paid for it because he's 13. Okay? 2 things you can do here. Number 1, what most people I think in today's culture would do, you can bitch about it. Right? Poor me. I'm doing this guy's work. I deserve more. He's not doing the work. Okay? That's not going to help. What happens there is Carnegie, he's actually getting an opportunity to learn a more valuable skill set. Most of the time, we're not going to be paid for learning. So in this scenario, he's 13 years old. He's doing the adult job. The boss isn't really paying attention. He's not really there, but he does it anyways, knowing, you know, I've got my little tiny $2.50 a month pay raise. Right? Not a ton, probably not really worth the amount of work I'm doing, but I'm doing it because I'm building skills. I'm building skills. And when you build skills, those skills will pay off in the future. And that's what happened. He went from just $12 a month to then $25 a month to then $30 a month to then $35 a month. Why? Because he was willing to learn and work for free for a period of time, being humble, knowing, okay, I don't know everything right now, and I'm not gonna if I don't learn it. So I'm gonna take this less than optimal experience that I could complain about and being, you know, self-pity and victim and all this kind of stuff, and instead, I'm gonna use that to sharpen myself and hone my craft. Right? Not only that, but outside of school, he was studying, he was reading books, he was joining literary clubs, he was doing things to develop himself. So at the end of the chapter, one of the things that happens is he gets promoted working as the personal messenger for a very important person, right? And this gives him the opening now into the political space, the railroad. And as we read further on, you'll see how these opportunities that he was taking are the things that led him into the entry points that he had for wealth building. Okay, and I want to relate it to you like this. Let's say you're an artist, you have a band. You have a band, you're trying to become famous, you're trying to become known, okay? If nobody knows who you are, nobody listens to you, nobody pays for your tickets, it's incorrect to take on the viewpoint of, well, I'm not going to do it for free. Right? Like that's like you're too focused on your beingness. Like, oh, I'm so important and I'm so this and I'm so that and I would never, right? Here's the thing for success. For success, you need to be willing to get on your hands and knees and crawl through the crap sometimes. And it doesn't mean your beingness has gone down. It doesn't mean your self-identity and concept or what other people think of you is less. Here's what I've learned. When you're willing to do that, you actually become more. So instead of Carnegie, he could, be playing the tiny violin and, oh, this is child labor abuse and all the probably valid things that could be said in that scenario, right? But what did he do instead? Instead, he got on his hands and knees, he crawled through the muck, he did the work, he continued grabbing the next thing. And here is the deal with this. There was a part in this particular part of the chapter where he was like, the other boys no longer liked him. This will happen to you. If you're pursuing success with wealth building, if you're pursuing success with business, the peer group that you had when you were poor, when you were broke, when you weren't doing well, right? They want you to do well. They don't want you to do better than them, right? Your success invalidates their failure. Your existence makes them think about all the stuff that they're not doing. And so when he started becoming successful and getting the pay raises and getting the opportunities, the kids that he was with in the workforce, a year ago, 2 years ago, where they were buddies, they worked together, they were all kind of in the same rank, they didn't like him anymore, right? He was this snooty, too good for everybody else Carnegie boy. Doesn't spend money on candy like all of us do, just wants to read books, doesn't hang out the way that we do, gets paid different than we do, does different work than we do. They started to individuate from him as group members because he was joining a new group. He was joining a new group. The new group is who? The politicians and the businessmen. They're not spending all their money at the candy store with 12-year-old boys, right? So throughout Carnegie's story, he grows up fast. And I think that that's such an important thing in today's society. If you're a parent, like the norm that we're taught is like keep your kids as long as possible. No. Get them grown up fast. Get them succeeding fast. Get them learning fast. The last thing you want is to be responsible for an adult who's behind. We cause that. As parents, we cause that fully. Right? We're either pushing our kids to succeed or we're holding them back. There's not a middle ground there. And so Carnegie's parents, they're proud of him. His dad actually takes a moment. He's talking about, his dad's Scottish, right? Apparently Scottish people don't share their emotions, right? I have Scottish genealogy, so I can kind of relate to that on some scale. But his dad pulled him aside and was like, I'm proud of you, son. It was one of the only times he ever said it. And it was after he saw Carnegie, getting these pay raises and getting these promotions and being offered opportunities that other people weren't getting. Right? So here's two things again, because this is kind of the childhood come up. What can we learn from this? Number one, if you're a parent, like you're raising a future successful adult or a future non-successful adult. There's only two outcomes there. It's black and white. There's not a middle ground. The things that you teach, the things you shelter from, the things you create, the things you counter-create, the things you push, the things you don't push, the opportunities you give, the danger and risk that you let them take and experience, those things will all result in whether or not your today child becomes successful as an adult. Hey, you want to see a magic trick? Get a copy of my book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. I know it's in front of my chest and my face because I want you focusing on the book and not me for a moment before you go back to focusing on me and the content. Right? Second thing, we can kind of look at the focus of Carnegie as he's leveling up in the workforce. He's still increasing his skill set. He's still learning new things, and he's willing to essentially do it without getting paid because he knows it's a learning experience. I have a new staff member that came on. One of the most beautiful things I've seen where she's like, let me do this for free to prove to you I can. I don't want to be a drain on the group. I want to come in. I want to launch this new thing. Let me do it for free and I'll show you I can do it. Okay. I love that. Why? Because this says that this person is thinking about 5 years from now. Not 5 minutes, not 5 days, not 5 hours, 5 years from now. Right? I get to come in, I get to learn, I get to improve myself, and I get to build something that's going to be, my creation. I'll do that for free. In this group with this leadership, I want that for free. I would pay for that. Like that's the kind of vibe that is. I've had employees also that come in where they're like, I breathed, you now need to pay me. Right? I accidentally opened an email, I need overtime. Like nobody likes that either. Right? And that's the choice we can make. Like with our wealth building, you have to be willing to give before you can get. You have to be willing to give time, energy, money, knowing that if you're not already there, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. There is a totem pole and there are higher positions on that totem pole and you're at the bottom and you're not going to get to the top if you don't earn your way. And you can't keep what you have and get what they have. You've got to trade it. You got to give up what you've got in order to get what you want. So I hope that this video gives you some inspiration, some help. Again, I love reading this because, guys, we're reading about a 12-year-old kid at this point. Insane. And of course, you know the story. You know what he turns into as an adult. But you can see the difference in operating basis. Last thing I want to share, actually, on this point, then I promise I'll wrap this video up. When he started getting his pay raises as a kid, think about this. He's 13. He's getting money as a kid. He took the money and he contributed it to his family. He combined it with his parents' income to improve quality of life for himself and his loved ones. Okay, that's why he wasn't spending the candy at the dime store. He was contributing to the group he was in. He realized his family's a group. He's part of the group. He wants to support the group. He made extra money. He's going to help buy furniture, pay for groceries, whatever it might be in order to make the group stronger. Okay, how many people, whether kids or adults, do you know that if you got a pay raise or they got a pay raise, they're not going to do that? It's going to go to whatever they want. Candy, new car, vacation, like just something that makes them feel good. Right? And so we have a 13-year-old kid who's not being asked to do this, by the way. This is on his own volunteer, his own, I want to help my family. And he decides, I'm going to make these income checks that I get, I'm going to make them as a contribution to my family. And I'm going to make them as a contribution so my mom and dad can live a better life, so my little brother can live a better life, so I can live a better life, because we win as a group together. Okay, that is impressive for a 12, 13-year-old kid. There's a lot of adults who don't think that way. So guys, I hope this video gives you some insights. These are real wealth building tips. You have to read the book to dive into them and see what you see. This is what I see. These are the things I'm pulling out as I'm reading this. So if you've not read Andrew Carnegie's book, Gospel of Wealth, and his autobiography, I highly recommend it. We will be back again next Finance Friday. See you next time. Like, share, subscribe. Hey, this is Jerry Fetta here. I want to thank you for watching my video, watching my content. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to learn more about the blueprint to financial freedom and how you can achieve passive income that exceeds your savings, your expenses, your taxes, your generosity, and build wealth like the top 1%, I want to encourage you, grab a copy of my book, The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. You can go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo, or you can click the link in the description of the video here. The copy is free. You cover your shipping. We'll send the book out to you, and we'll send you an email with a bunch of great bonus material also for free. Get the book, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on my next content.